sir.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the big match preview on Loaded Mag and UFC. You might be waiting for the Goosebumps, but we thought we'd live it up a little bit. He's in form; he's in the form of his life, and we back him to continue that. So that is why we started with these. But welcome all, welcome to the big match preview. Massive game tomorrow, lunchtime, and let's talk about it all on this Friday evening. Chris, how are you, mate? How's things?
All good, mate. Yeah. We were briefly talking pre-show. You're just saying I've been to have a game of snooker with my brother-in-law tonight. Unfortunately, got beat. That was disappointing. But in more important news, I'm just solely focused on 12:30 tomorrow, mate. I just hope that we can continue this run. We get 10 wins in a row. And people in the chat, by the way, who corrected me during the Wolves reaction show. Yeah, I incorrectly said that it was 8 Premier League games in a row, but it wasn't. It was 6 Premier League games in a row. I've just forgotten about the cup competitions completely. But yeah, I hope we keep this one going. And yeah, I'm just really excited. I think it's going to be a difficult game. I don't think we'll take it for granted. Obviously, Bournemouth 8th in the league at the moment, so doing particularly well themselves. I think they're only 4 points behind us. So if we win tomorrow, we extend that gap to 7, which I think is huge. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the game. Hoping Alexander Isak scores again. So I love that intro, Pete. But yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm very, very good. Pleased that the working week is over. I'm looking forward to the weekends. But how are you doing, mate?
Exactly the same, mate. The week is done. Finally, we can enjoy the weekend, and hopefully that starts off with a win and the 3 points. That is for sure. Welcoming people are coming into the chat. Make sure you're clicking those likes on the way in. We can thank you for all your support, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We may have a few Bournemouth fans kind of keeping an eye on this channel tonight as they travel up north, because we have got a little bit of input from back in that podcast, AFC Bournemouth podcast with Sam, Tom, and the lads coming very, very shortly. But people are in the house. Yes, we need a win. We need to continue this going and continue the good form. But we were talking about this off air, Chris. Eddie Howe had his press conference today. There's a little bit of an update with regards to various different situations. Let's talk about the moment at this moment in time before we sort of get onto the game. Is the main talking point was, of course, Miguel Almiron. What did you make of Miguel Almiron's kind of points and things that he talked about with relation to the potential move to Atlanta United, which looks like it's going to go through at some point, but hasn't yet been accepted? What did you make of Eddie Howe's comments, mate?
Yeah, it was interesting. I watched it earlier. Eddie being the professional as he always is. I thought he came across really well, answered some difficult questions. But yeah, when he focused on Miguel Almiron, it was quite a disclosure from Eddie. Normally he's lip sealed, but I got the impression that it looks like a distinct possibility. Obviously, the media outlets have all been saying that it's definitely a goer. There's definitely interest there. Talks have taken place. And Eddie Howe saying that there's a possibility that he's going to leave this window, I think speaks for itself. Normally with things like that, he either says, I don't know, or I haven't spoken to anyone, but he actually said that there was a possibility of it. What I did like as well, and I suppose it was to be expected, was that Eddie was very, very straight down the line in terms of, what, and it was, I forget who asked the question, but somebody asked him, is it in the back of your mind that, potentially involving Miguel Almiron in the game at the weekend, could potentially scupper the deal if he was to pick up an injury, for example? And Eddie's response to that was, he's part of the squad, and as far as I'm concerned, while he's playing for Newcastle United, he remains an integral part of the team, and he will be up for consideration. That part I'm not so sure of, I must be honest. But he towed the professional line, is what I'd say. But to me, it sounds very much like Miguel Almiron. It's a case of when, not if, that he leaves Newcastle United for Atalanta United. He was asked about Lloyd Kelly. He was a bit more muted on that. Just said that there was no update, and as far as he was concerned, there's nothing to talk about. Wasn't really asked about anybody else in terms of transfers. He did also touch, Pete, as well on Fabian Schär. Apparently, the only injury update is the fact that Fabian Schär is still, they're going to assess him today. I know we're going to get to the lineups a bit later on, but yeah, that was really the only injury update. He did also disclose, actually, I'm thinking about it, he did also disclose that Nick Pope should be ready for the Southampton game, but he won't be ready for tomorrow. So, business as usual.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, interesting situation with Miguel Almiron, because as you touched on, there is still a need for him in this squad right now, and the reason being is because Harvey Barnes is out for a month, and with him being out, we then have that lack of firepower coming off the bench, and ultimately he's our only other option after Murphy and Gordon off the bench from the wing positions. We know that players can play there. Joelinton can play on the left. Willock's played on the right at times, been kind of shoehorned into that position, but we don't have a natural in that position, which for me is important. This is why I've said it on socials, I've said it on here as well, that if we do lose Miguel Almiron, we do have to replace it. It is a massive, massive risk, in my opinion, not to replace him and go into the rest of the season with potentially 3 natural wingers and only 1 right winger. And we know right wing's been the major issue for Newcastle in the last 2 or 3 years. So for me, it's an interesting one with Miguel Almiron. I do think he'll leave, but I'm a little bit sort of nervous with regards to what potentially may come off the back of that. But Mark Douglas put a piece out today talking about options. If Miguel Almiron leaves, there's some interesting options in there. Some unknown real names, to be honest with you. The only one that kind of stood out for me, and the one that I think we collectively understand and know, is maybe Ryan Cherky. That was one potential option that we'd look at out of the 3 or 4 that was mentioned. The other 3 or 4 were more unknown names and very much built for the future and potential. So that was an interesting piece there. But ultimately, Miguel Almiron is fit, and Keith Downey reported it, as you just mentioned, Chris. He is available and he wants to play. So looks like he will be in the squad. And it makes sense up until the deal's agreed. It doesn't, as mentioned previously, the MLS season doesn't start till April. So there's no real rush to get him over there. They're probably just going to be moving into their preseason very shortly. So for me, I just think, there's nothing necessarily to worry about by playing him. But we have got to be careful, because we do effectively need that deal to go through from a PSR perspective. So we're in that point now where we're moving forward into this game. And look, Chris, just in your opinion, how big is this game? I mean, we know we've got the potential of going 10 games won in a row, which is historic for Newcastle United and where we want to be. But just in isolation, this game against Bournemouth, how big is it for in our opinions, for the players and also for the club and where we want to go? Oh, I think you're on mute, mate.
Sorry. I was just saying, it sounds cliche, but I kind of feel like every game's going to be big now, because it's about keeping this run going, and we can only focus on the next game in front of us. I know we probably sound like Eddie Howe there, but it's so true. We can't look. We as a channel, we've looked at January, haven't we, and said that we've got a lot of winnable games. But I know Eddie and the lads like to focus on the next game, and that's all that we can do within our power, just to ensure that we prepare and be ready for the next game. So this Bournemouth game's huge, because obviously Eddie Howe, he said, that was one thing he said in the press conference, actually. He said, that like the record wasn't really in his mind, but I think secretly, he would be very proud and very pleased if he was to break that record of 10 consecutive wins, which has never been done. So I think in the back of the mind, he'll want that. But really, it's just about getting the 3 points on the board because, you know, we've heard Alan Shearer come out. Eddie tried to pretend as well that he didn't know that Alan Shearer had come out and said that we were in a title race. He pretended he didn't know, and then he admitted that he did hear it. If someone had told him, apparently. But yeah, every game's incredibly important at the moment. It's just about keeping that winning run going, and it will just breed confidence. And the thing that for me.
We've got a sticky point here. I'm sure Chris will tell us what that thing is in just a second.
Am I back?
Yeah, he's back now. He can tell us what that thing was.
Sorry.
He said that thing was, and then it went blank. So
and it paused. Oh, yeah. Well, that wasn't done on purpose. That wasn't done on purpose. I'm sorry about that. No, the thing that all the players need to remember, bar Alexander Isak, is that they've got the best striker in Europe at the moment, and that gives anybody half a chance. That I do agree with on Alan Shearer. The fact that he said when you've got Alexander Isak up front, you've always got a chance, and it's absolutely right. You know, arguably, as I say, best striker in Europe at present, and he's banging the goals in, and long may that continue. I think, yeah, I just really want us to continue this run, and I think we're more than capable of doing it. And I think the confidence will just increase and grow and grow and grow. And then the beauty as well of us being the early kickoff tomorrow is that it's all eyes and all pressure on the other teams. Then another 3 points in the bag for Newcastle United, hopefully so. And then they're going to be looking, thinking, oh, Newcastle have won again. We're going to have to make sure we turn up today. We're going to have to make sure, you know, we get the 3 points on the board today. And that'll be the likes of Chelsea, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Villa, the likes of Forest. And this is what we need to do. Just keep piling that pressure on. And it's a great opportunity for us at home. Bournemouth are a good side, as we've already discussed. I think they're going to cause problems, but we are at home. We do have the advantage. You know, that home advantage is huge for us, as we know. And we've had some fantastic results, and it's just important that, you know, the lads keep the belief and they know that they're more than capable of winning the game, because I truly believe they are.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, as you've said, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a difficult game. Bournemouth are on a brilliant run. Actually unbeaten in their last 10 games, which is massive. Like, that is absolutely massive. To go in unbeaten for 10 games is no mean feat. And look, we're going with 9 straight wins. So it's almost like your 9 wins versus your 10-game unbeaten run. Something's got to give in this game, and they're going to fight tooth and nail. They did against Chelsea. You know, they didn't give up against Chelsea when they could have potentially rolled over. They kept battling away, and they kept chipping away at Chelsea, and then managed to get back into the game. And so they've got that never say die attitude. So we are going to have to be on it. That is for sure. But look, there are little caveats to that, which I think could potentially help us moving down the line in the build up to this game. And that's going to be a really, really important point. I just want to mention this really, really quickly, because I know one or two have mentioned it, and it's just going around on social media. Really sad news. Denis Law has passed away, aged 84 today. It's just been announced on social media and various other platforms. So condolences to his family and people close to him. Obviously a legend of the game, absolute legend of the game, and no doubt will be sorely missed. So I just wanted to share our thoughts with regards to Denis Law. So, Chris, do we want to hear from the opposition's viewpoint? Because we have had the pleasure of having Sam and Tom do their own little mini preview for us. They are unfortunately not able to join us tonight because they are currently traveling up north. They're currently heading to the northeast. Sam, I think, via Edinburgh. Tom directly to Newcastle. Tom will be no doubt supporting us in the big market tonight, supporting Newcastle United's allegiance when Sunderland play later on this evening, having a few beers, as he's mentioned as well. But let's hear what they've got to say, because I asked them asked them to share a few points with us about their team and their run of form. I asked them to talk about Lloyd Kelly. I wanted the latest on their opinions on Semedo and their chances of winning the game at St James's Park from their opinion. So look, let's not beat around the bush. Let's go and hear from the boys. It's Sam and Tom from Back of the Net, AFC Bournemouth podcast, and yeah, we'll let them take it away.
Hi guys, cheers for inviting us on to your preview for the big match this weekend, the Eddie Howe derby. I'm Sam from Back of the Net.
I'm Tom from Back of the Net.
And we're looking forward to a game between two teams that are in incredible form right now.
Yeah, mad form. I think in all comps there, 9 wins in a row, you guys, and we're in all comps 10 unbeaten. So something's got to give here. It's a weird one. I've been on this preview before, right?
On the best preview. Newcastle United channel,
of course. And spoke to Pete loads, and every time I go on there, I go, I just can't see how we're going to go there and get anything, and we always do. I mean, Eddie still hasn't beaten us in the Premier League. So I'm like, how can we stop them at the moment? And we've literally got, I mean, the amount of injuries we've got is, honestly, it's unbelievable. But we could, I think. What do you think?
We could. Look, I mean, their form has been absolutely superb. Eddie is getting a tune out of every single player, as we know. But Newcastle fans will probably be looking at us, of course, and probably admiring our season, looking at a few players as well. So we need to chat about some that they may be looking at. But it's been a good season for us, hasn't it, so far, and under Andoni?
It's been incredible. We keep rising every year, don't we? And look better and better. It's such good fun, but it's more the football as well, isn't it? We create so much. It's real joy to watch. It's one of them things that I think we could do something really special from our perspective this season, potentially a first time ever in Europe. And then we've just been hit with these injuries at an awful time. Equally, you could say it's probably the best time to have all these injuries because we ain't in any sort of trouble, whereas we have been previously. It depends how you look at it. But, obviously this is going to be a real difficult one, but we went to Stamford Bridge and thought we literally had a development squad on the bench and we thought there's no way we're going to get anything here.
That's the problem, isn't it? We're a team that tend to have our effect on a game the later on it goes, and I think we've got the best stat in the Premier League for substitute scoring and also late goals as well. So we had a substitute score against Chelsea, of course, came on, albeit Justin Kluivert did come on quite early in that due to injury, another one that we didn't want. Look, our ultimate aim as a club is always just be safe, really, but under Andoni, that ceiling has risen somewhat, and the question is asked from Pete about Europe. Can we succeed? And also, can Newcastle succeed? I think they will.
I think Newcastle will be top 4.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know that this run is incredible and it ain't going to continue forever, but with Isak, to keep him fit, obviously that's a major one. And we all know Eddie. I think, I mean, they're slightly in a title race, in my opinion. But I actually think if I had to do it now, I'd put them to get 3rd. I think they'll get 3rd. I think Newcastle look brilliant. Really do. And, Isak, arguably the best striker in football at the moment.
Yeah, he's all right.
He's not bad. Andy Gordon's a great player, but I think you also don't look at people like Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, incredible. And obviously they've got Lloyd Kelly.
Yeah, about him. Links to Fenerbahce. It's been a difficult season. I was chatting to Pete about him, saying how good he was, but he hasn't really done it, has he?
Nah. And I think you mentioned there that they might be linked with a few others. I think they'll probably be going, can we not have any more from Bournemouth? Because old Ryan Fraser wasn't great. Callum Wilson done it right, to be fair.
Yeah, Matt Ritchie, of course.
Was right,
he scored in the last game at St James's Park, of course.
So put it this way, he's on the bench for Portsmouth at the moment. He'd walk on our bench, Matt Ritchie. That's how weak we are. But yeah, I think Lloyd, it's one of them. I thought he might get in over Burns' foreman helped him.
Yeah.
And I also thought he might have to play left back and he's all right at left back. But then Lewis Hall has just gone to another level. So that's made it hard for him. But the problem Lloyd's had is every time he's come in, I don't think he's really pulled up any trees. I'm surprised they're rejecting bids, but maybe they're thinking if we get an injury, we could do with Lloyd. It looks like Almiron's going to go. He's obviously been a great servant for him, but I think it's time to let him go. But yeah, I mean, sorry about Lloyd. I don't think it's probably going to work. Something not right with Lloyd because he was brilliant for us and then he couldn't always get in the team either. No. It is a weird one.
Well, of course, we've got men that will be having our eyes on. They'll be looking at Semenyo, of course, the next big thing in the Premier League. I mean, he's big already. Again, he scored a brilliant goal against Chelsea. What do you reckon to his value and where he could end up at? Newcastle, could that be one of the clubs?
It could. I don't think they'll pay the money.
I
think it's more likely to be a Liverpool, someone like that. But I think he's 50 million plus, isn't he?
Quality though, left foot,
Comfortably.
right foot, can score with both feet.
Yeah, he's
powerhouse.
Decent.
Scored it last time there.
Yeah, and he's got most things to his game really, hasn't he? So yeah, he's been crucial to us. I think he's one that we probably think he could go in the summer. I think Kirkes will definitely go our left back. But apart from them two, I think we'll be able to keep most of them. And as we keep saying, mate, just spoke about how little options we've got. But we keep getting results, and that's because the one we need to keep is Andoni Iraola. I can cope with players leaving.
Absolutely.
I can't cope with Iraola leaving. We've already lost Eddie. My God, I can't lose Iraola as well.
The tactics he asked about in terms of how we'll set up. Look, we don't like to have much of the ball, so Newcastle having the ball's fine. You can see the stats with the Chelsea game that we played. We had more of the ball in the first half, and we were appalling. Let them have it in the second, and we got more shots on goal.
Yeah.
Looked a lot more threatening as well. So it's going to be a sort of counter-attacking style game, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, we'll try and break in transitions, and we'll be very open, and there'll probably be loads of chances. And it's about being clinical, because I said to you off air, didn't I, that they swept aside Wolves 3-0 by the looks of it. But if you actually watch the game, Wolves had a lot of chances. So that gave me a little bit. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if both teams have 20 shots each, they'll beat us because they're going to be more clinical. I would have thought. The stats are all there. They've got Isak and Gordon, etc. But if we just have a day where we finish our dinner, I do think we'll get chances in the game. So, because we always have chances. And yeah, but it will be a more let them have the ball, which Wolves did. They're at 60% Newcastle, and hope that we're defensively sound. Hope Isak has an off day, and you never know.
My prediction then for this one, my head says Newcastle are going to win it, but always follow your heart. I'm going to go for a 1-1. What are you going for?
I'll go with you, mate. I always say to Pete that every time I go on there, I predict Newcastle win, and they never do. So I'm going to do it again. Newcastle batter us. I think we could nick a sneaky 1-1 as well, mate. So
Love it. If you want to see more AFC Bournemouth stuff, head over to Back of the Net. We're an AFC Bournemouth fan channel. We truly appreciate you hopping on board and subscribing. But Pete, thanks for having us.
Cheers,
really
Pete.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you all at St James's Park. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries. Remember the handball rule.
Love that.
Loved it.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Sam and Tom. We're such a great guys, and great representatives as well as of their club. And if you haven't watched their own match preview on Back of the Net, go watch it. It is brilliant. And keep an eye out for the last words from Tom. He has a knack of just saying these little last words at the end of a stream, and just listen to it, because all Newcastle United fans will appreciate the words that he says at the end of his stream. So go watch that after you watch this one for sure, because it is a really, really good watch. But some interesting points, Chris, that I want to kind of touch on with you that they've mentioned. Of course, their record. We've talked about it, 10 in a row unbeaten, but their record against Newcastle is pretty good. Does that worry you in any way, shape, or form? I know we've kind of touched on it before, but is that a worry for you going into this game tomorrow?
Do you know what? It kind of isn't. It kind of isn't. And the reason I say that is because I feel, and this has been spoken about a lot recently, I kind of feel like we're a different team now. Different beast. I know. On this channel we've made references, haven't we, to the Champions League qualification season. But on the other hand, I feel like we're a more complete team now, and we have said that, haven't we? That this is probably the best team in our recent era that we've seen. Certainly in the last 20 years, easily. And I think, I don't know. I go into this game confident. Now, I did say that against West Ham. I did. But we weren't in the rich train form that we're in now. Alexander Isak wasn't producing what he is now. Sandro Tonali wasn't in the number 6. I feel like we've kind of unlocked a cheat code, and we're now in a place where we're performing to a level that we've not seen in recent times. And I feel like the snowball's rolling down the hill, and we've got that momentum, and I just think like we can keep going. Eddie Howe said as well, not in the press conference just gone, I think it was the one before, actually. I think it was before Wolves, when he was asked, about history, and he was asked about, previous results, and he said that he doesn't really look at that. And I quite like that. What's happened in the past is in the past, and now it's about looking forward. And so I take what the boys say, about the fact that, Eddie Howe's never won a game against Bournemouth since he's become Newcastle United manager. But records are there to be broken, aren't they? And we're on the verge of breaking our own records. And wouldn't it be ironic that we break our records by breaking another record in the process, in that Eddie's never beaten Bournemouth when he's been Newcastle United manager. So there's potential there for 2 new records. So yeah, I'm still going into it positively, Pete. But what about you?
You know what? There's a couple of things. There's a couple of caveats to this. Obviously, you know, the points that you've talked about, the fact that we haven't won against them, particularly at St James's Park, for at least a couple of years, is a little bit of concern for me. But you're right in what you say. That those records are there to be broken. It's time to kind of rip the Band-Aid off. We did it with Arsenal last week. We went there. We haven't won there for a long time. Went and won comfortably, by the way, as we've already covered. So we have the opportunity to kind of rip the Band-Aids off with regard to these kind of historic results. The one thing that fills me with confidence, though, mate, and it kind of brings us really to the sort of the tactics board in just a second, is that they are riddled with injuries. And to the point where they touched on it there, and they've touched on it in their preview as well, is that they are literally playing academy. They've got academy players on the bench because they've got no options. Like, they've got lots of injuries. They lost their only right back against Chelsea. He's been confirmed. I think it's James Hill. He's out for the game tomorrow. So they've not got a right back. So they're now going to have to play Lewis Cook, who's a centre midfielder, at right back because they haven't got one. Their 2 main strikers, Unas and Evanilson, both injured, both out long term. So they're not available. They've mentioned potentially another player coming in that they've had to pull back from off loan, I believe, in the Championship, to be able to play tomorrow. And it's going to be an interesting one. And look, I might as well bring it up now. Just on the back of that, the tactics board, just because it kind of feeds in to what I'm trying to say. So I've already laid out the team that they think is going to play tomorrow. And this is how the team looks. And so what would normally happen is James Hill would normally play right back here, and Cook would play in this position. Christie or Kluivert would play here. And Kluivert was actually on the bench against Chelsea. So this is how it looked, albeit with James Hill there. But they're having to change it round for this reason. So it's pretty much going to look like this, and that Cook's going to play here. And look, let's be honest, it's still a strong team. It's still a decent team. Yeah. And they've got maybe one option off the bench, if I can think and go back to Otara, the young kind of pacey forward, will potentially come off the bench and be an option for them. He might well start. I think he started against Chelsea, but I think what they will do, from what the boys are saying, is play Jefferson up top and then have somebody of note to come off the bench. A little bit like what we used to do with Harvey Barnes. We would say, why don't you play Gordon and play Barnes on the other side? But we kept him on the bench because we wanted someone off the bench that could create something different later on in the game. And I think that's what they're going to do. It's still a strong squad, but the point that I'm making is that they've got a lot of injuries. And what you've got then is a lot of young players, academy players, inexperienced players that are there as options, but not really options, because I don't think Areola is going to look to them to come off the bench to change the game. So therefore, my question is a little bit like what we were last season. It reminds me of Newcastle United last season, in that having a tough game at Stamford Bridge and then coming to St James's Park, is it going to take its toll on Bournemouth? Are they going to struggle late on in the game because they've given everything they can, 2 games in literally 3-4 days, and then have nothing left in the tank? We know Newcastle United have got energy to burn. We know the likes of Tonali, Joe Linton can run all day for you. We know that Bruno Guimaraes can cover every blade of grass. So looking at the players on the pitch, I just think, for me, the way it sits right now with the players and the team that I think we're going to play with, and look, I'll get you to pick the team in a second, Chris. I think the team that we're going to play on Saturday, I think will just have just enough for them, because I think our relentless nature will get the job done. I don't know what you think about that, but that's just kind of my thoughts based on what I'm seeing from Bournemouth and what the lads are saying, and from what I'm seeing from our team. I think we can win this. And depending on how fast we come out the track, I think we can win well, depending on whether we take our chances when we get them early on in the game. But what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. It's almost like pouncing when there's a weakness. Like straight away when you brought that team up, straight away I was drawn to Lewis Cook. Straight away, I mean Lewis Cook is not a right back, and I straight away I just thought Anthony Gordon. I also look at that midfield, Pete, and I think, you know what, it's definitely, you can definitely get at it. Having this Jefferson, I've never even heard of Jefferson. I'm not even sure who he is. So, you know, again, you know, you're looking at our centre backs and thinking the form they're in. Dan Burn at the moment, absolutely colossal. Dan Burn's got to be fancying that. He's got to be fancying that. David Brooks, I really like David Brooks actually. I think he's really talented lad. And Semenyo, obviously a big risk. So you're right. They've got players that can hurt us. But if we turn up, if we give our A game, there's no reason why not at all, Pete, that we can't go in for the kill and really try and wrap this game up early. I agree with what you're saying. Let's you know, go at them early doors and put the game to bed early. That's what I'm hoping we do.
Yeah, definitely. Digital media have just switched over and they've said there, you know, when we're not underrating them, let's just make that clear. We're not underrating them at all. What we're saying is ultimately they're having to shift their team around, but it's pretty much still the same team that they've been playing sort of week on week because of their injuries. The point,
and we've been there ourselves, haven't we, Pete?
Yeah,
we've been there ourselves.
We know it from last season. So the point I'm making is that will tiredness take its toll because they're having to go to the well again, knowing that these boys are probably going to have to play another 90 plus minutes. No real subs that are coming off the bench apart from maybe one attacking positive sub. You know, if we're in a positive position and we're chasing the game, are they really going to have those players to come off the bench to change the game? You know, I'm looking at it from a positive point of view. I think this can fall into our hands. I think this could be, if we play our cards right and we do what we need to do, I think this could be a real plus for us. The fact that they're playing the rest. And to be fair, listening to their preview, I think both Tom and Sam concede that, you know, it could be a game too far. And they're mentioning that with a full week's rest and another week to the next game, that they may well be able to get players back after this game at Newcastle, which is fine by me. We want to win this game. This is the priority. So for me, I'm only looking at this game. So yeah, definitely underrate him. We know Lewis Cook's a good player. We were linked with him way back when to come to Newcastle before the takeover. So we know his qualities, we know his abilities and his versatility. And we're just saying about the players constantly playing on that level consistently. But we've got our Newcastle squad there available, mate. Let's throw our Newcastle squad out there as a talking point. How do you see it going? Is it pretty straightforward for you, mate, or are you looking at maybe the odd change or two? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's pretty straightforward. I know Johnny Greenwood. Good evening, Johnny. Hope you're well, mate. I know me and Johnny are going to disagree on the centre back pairing. But other than that,
What did he say?
So Johnny has said, I'll put it up on screen so everyone can see. Very tough game tomorrow, lads. Going for 2-1. I think Burn and Shaw start tomorrow, which I've got to say, I based on the press conference I heard, Johnny, or the comments I heard, should I say, in the press conference, for me, I think he'll stick with Botman. I can see why Johnny's saying it, because maybe Johnny's thinking, you know, Botman's plays a lot of football, hasn't he, since he's come back, and he's really been thrown back in the deep end, and he's performed absolutely brilliantly as well. But I just think if there's any element of doubt on Fabian Schär, I just don't think he'll risk him. But we will see tomorrow, won't we, Johnny? When those lineups come out at like 11:15, we will see. We will see. But sorry, go on, Pete.
I was going to say, isn't there more doubt with Shaw than there is Botman? Because from the words that Eddie Howe said about his cough, he had a real bad cough, and he's not fully 100%, and he's not trained yet. For me, that I don't see Shaw playing at all.
No, I don't.
If anything, if they're literally, if he hasn't trained this week because he's been unwell, and they're only looking at him today, for example, in today's training session, I wouldn't be playing him at all. It best to be on the bench, because Sven Botman, yes, he played midweek, but look, Sven Botman's 100% fit now. Let's not beat around the bush. Sven Botman is not only is he up to speed, he is 100% fit. He's proven it, and Sven Botman is absolutely fine to play this game. He played 95 minutes on Wednesday, and let's be honest, lads and lasses, for long parts of that game, he didn't really have a lot to do. Because we were constantly in their box. We were pushing them back. It's not like, coming out of the Tottenham game, he probably did need a rest for the Arsenal game, but we didn't have Shaw. I think if we'd have had Shaw, we'd have gone with Shaw, and Botman would have got a rest. I understood that because he was under the cosh for long parts. Tottenham came at us in that second half, and he had to really, really play at a high level. That's his first game back. In the game against Wolves, I don't think he was put under the same type of pressure. So I think fitness-wise, he'd be fine. That's just me. But Chris, go for it. Set your team out, mate. Tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Martin Dubravka in goal, which is an obvious one.
Sorry, just having a little sip of the air.
No, you crack on, mate. You crack on.
But yeah, Martin D. in the sticks again, mate. Yeah. Just a quick one: is he staying? Is he going? What are your thoughts, mate?
No, I think he stays. Particularly after the rumours that we heard that we weren't actually getting a fee for him. I think that goodwill gesture is well and truly gone now. If it was 8 million, as I've said previously, I think you'd have to take it. Or sorry, $8 million, which or euros or whatever it is, which would be 6.4 million, as Foxy kindly told us. But if there was no money involved, no, he doesn't go. He has to stay. And I think as well, it's an opportunity for Martin Dubravka to write himself into Newcastle United history. I'm sure he would want to stay and be a part of the squad that won the first trophy since 1969. I'm sure, what a way to bow out. And he'll still get his big contract in Saudi. No problem. In the summer. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he'll sign a new contract. I know Eddie keeps hinting at it. I don't think that happens. I just don't see it happening.
Would you want him to?
I do. Probably not. No, I think he's one of the last few of the old guard who thank you for your time, but need to move on. That's how I see it. One thing I am pleased about Pete, he's leaving with a bit of a legacy. If best case scenario, we qualify for the Champions League and we win a trophy. What a way to bow out. And I'd be really pleased for Martin Dubravka if that was the case. And obviously pleased for ourselves. But I think it would be great. It'd be great for him to spend the rest of the season. Let's be honest, we're only talking until May. So, I think hang on in there for a little bit longer and then you can go and get your big payday in Saudi. That's how I see it.
Definitely. I just put this comment up just to come into the chat. The boys, I think this is Sam that's on the way up. All the best, lads. Thanks for having it. Sam, it's an absolute pleasure. Honestly, I've had the pleasure of meeting Sam back in June. What a guy. Tom, absolute legend. Your video was spot on. A really, really good assessment from a sort of a Bournemouth point of view, Bournemouth perspective, as we expected it to be. But safe travels to you, mate. I hope you enjoy up north. But as I said to you when I messaged you earlier, hopefully not enjoying it too much from 12:30 till 2:30. But look, I think it's going to be a good game. That is for sure. So great to see you in the chat, Sam. Brilliant stuff. And we've given you a plug for your preview. Everyone's going to go and watch that on Back of the Net podcast, AFC Bournemouth podcast after this show, because it's a cracker. It really is. And look out for that. Look out for Tom's words at the end, because he always leaves a little nugget of gold. And he certainly has for the Newcastle fans. But Chris, carry on for me, fella. Wait, what are you going for?
Okay, mate. So left back Lewis Hall. No brainer.
Yeah, of course, mate.
And at the moment, which has become a regular thing, right back Tino Livramento.
Tino, well, fully immersed himself as number one now, but right back, that is for sure.
Mm-hmm. And for me, the centre back partner will be Dan Burn, left centre back.
Okay.
And big Sven Botman, right centre back. That's what I believe it will be. Yeah.
You know what? It's so good, Chris.
Great having him back. It's great having him back.
It's so good to, you know what? Even from a match preview point of view, just being able to put him on this tactical board is just a dream. I've seen him there all season. Even last season, I'm just like, oh, just want him in that team. But it's so great for me to hear you say his name and for us to be able to put him back on. It is a dream, mate. But talk us through the rest of the team, fella.
Okay, mate. So in the 6, no surprise, it will be Sandro Tonali.
Big Sandro.
I thought you were heading for Bruno.
Yeah,
then.
you I've got Bruno.
I think you heading it.
I noticed I did it as well. I kind of hovered over the Bruno, and I was like, "What? What am I doing?" Back to Tonali. That's because we've not done many match previews recently. That's why I'm out of sync. My natural reaction on the tactics board is to go to Bruno, but no. There is a better version of a number 6 here, and it's Sandro. Absolutely, mate. But other two midfield.
So on the left side of the central midfield will be Big Joe Linton.
Yes.
And on the right side of the central midfield, who you were hovering on earlier, Bruno Gomes.
Hovering for the right reasons now.
Exactly. On the right wing, I think will be Jacob Murphy.
Big Jacob. Yeah, I'm going to ask you just a question just off the bat here.
Yeah, go.
And it might be an outlandish question, so people in the chat, don't hammer me on the back of this. But if Jacob Murphy continues this form, is there a genuine chance that he makes Thomas Tuchel's his first England squad? Is there any hope or any chance for Newcastle United fans to celebrate that, or am I just being outlandish and just ridiculous in what I'm saying?
No, I don't think so. I think he will certainly have to be in the conversation because, let's be honest, football is a numbers game. And when you look at the numbers, Jacob Murphy is right up there, isn't he? And he's performing incredibly well. We saw it in the Wolves game, that first half. He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. And for me, I think he's put himself in the conversation, Pete. Will he get in there? Who knows? And let's be honest, Pete, if we think about it, England's first choice right winger is currently out for the season. So there is an opportunity.
That is true. Absolutely. Yeah. Good point. And then complete the team for me, mate.
So left wing. He knows. Didn't even have to say it. Anthony Gordon. And then through the middle, the best striker in the Premier League. Forget all new contracts today. Best striker in the Premier League, Alexander Isak.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. They had to find a way to talk about Haaland in some.
Well,
they had to. Of course, they did. But the only thing that matters is what's been done on the pitch, and he is the best around right now. It's great to see. But mate, team looks absolutely fire. Ready for the game tomorrow night. Where, in your opinion, really quickly before we move on, because I know we've got some questions and a few things before we wrap up. Where do you think the game's going to be won and lost, mate?
For me, 2 positions I mentioned earlier. I think it's the midfield. I think that central midfield. I mean, people are now jumping on the bandwagon, aren't they? People are jumping on the bandwagon, and we're seeing media outlets saying it, we're seeing pundits saying it, and they're going, I think Newcastle might have the best central midfield in the league. We've been banging that drum for a long time, and now people are starting to acknowledge it. So really, this midfield against any midfield would look favourable. But the fact that, as you said before, Bournemouth are a little bit depleted, they're missing a few lads. For me, I just think that midfield we're going to have too much. And then the obvious one, which I mentioned before, and it was no slant on Lewis Cook. I like Lewis Cook, but people have been mentioning in the chat, that Lewis Cook is a decent right back. I've got no doubt, but it's not his natural position. Anybody who's playing out of position against one of the best left wingers in the country, I have to look at it. So for me, I think the central midfield and that left wing position, Anthony Gordon up against Lewis Cook, who will not want to come up against someone like Anthony Gordon. So for me, they're the 2 places that I think we can have some real joy. Obviously, Tino Livramento is going to have to keep an eye on Semenyo if he ends up playing on the left there. That is a big concern. And I'm a massive fan, Pete, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, massive fan of Kirkes. I think he's gonna. I'll be honest. I think he's going to end up. I've got a feeling he's going to end up at Liverpool. I know a few big clubs are looking at him. Very, very good player. And Jacob Murphy will have a far more difficult game at the weekend up against Kirkes, who's very quick, strong in the tackle. So I think that will be a good battle. But for me, I think it's won in the centre of midfield and on the left wing with Anthony Gordon up against Lewis Cook. What about you?
No, I agree. I think the midfield is where the biggest battle was won. I actually think that was where the game was won on Wednesday against Wolves. I think we just overpowered them. We outran them. We outfought them, and I think that was where we ended up winning the game. And I think Sandro Tonali was absolutely crucial in that. And I have to be honest, mate, I think he's going to be so crucial in that again today. I wish it was today. Tomorrow, I genuinely do. Just because this midfield, as you say, Chris, and you made a really good point, has got everybody talking right now. And you know what's interesting? You talked about other clubs and media talking about this team and in particular midfield. Well, interestingly for me, more so for me, content creators that are not Newcastle United fans are now jumping to streams on how good is this Newcastle United team? This team is unstoppable. This team is this team is that. And you've got content creators that don't like Newcastle United traditionally. You know, we've had Kaz on the channel on Top Table Talk. Never, ever really been a fan of Newcastle United, but these performances have won him over and he can't stop putting videos out. And if you haven't seen any, check them out. He did another one after the Wolves game on Wednesday. You got Big Six, a YouTube channel that are now putting out, you know, Liverpool fans putting out videos on Newcastle, telling us how good they are, how good we are. And talking about us when they didn't have us anywhere near being competitive at all at the beginning of the season. It's really, really interesting how people's minds have been changed so quickly, and they're seeing what we saw, you know, and what we were capable of, even in the beginning of the season, but certainly from the beginning of December. So it's really, really interesting how people's minds have changed. But absolutely, the midfield is where I think the game will be won. That's not to say they've not got a good midfield, but I just think our midfield is better. And if we're on song, if we play the way we know how we can play, I think we overpower Bournemouth. I think that's just a reality. It's going to be interesting, though. You know, Lewis Cook, yes, we've talked about him. He's not a right back. He's a good player, though. I do think that Gordon is in the form of his life right now. I think this is the best I'm seeing Gordon play since he's played for Newcastle United. I think that could be a key position. I'm interested to see the battle with Isak and Zabani as well. Zabani, Ukrainian international centre-back, has been linked with Newcastle United recently. We touched on it in a full loaded transfer show last week, I believe. Zabani is a very, very good centre-back. Talented, young centre-back, but good centre-back. And so is Dean Huijsen, who, you know, Chris, I talked about. I would have loved him to sign for Newcastle United and be our centre-back. But so they've got a really good pairing there. We're talking about the Forest pairing, which has been good, but they've got a really good youthful pairing there. And I have to say, Kepa's been in great form since he's gone on loan to Bournemouth. He's played really, really well. So they've got like a three there, with a bit of a triangle there that's quite solid and quite strong. And so for me, I think that's going to be interesting. What we cannot do, mate, is give a penalty away. Bournemouth have won a lot of penalties in recent games, particularly this season. And this man here, Justin Kluivert, seems like an absolute natural penalty taker because he's finishing them with a plum right now, and he looks absolutely lethal from the penalty spot. So we need to make sure we don't give them an opportunity to win a penalty because they've got a high chance of scoring it. Of course, Semenyo against Livramento is going to be a really, really good battle. I think what Livramento is going to need to do is be really physical with him because he is a physical player. I think Livramento matches him for pace, but I think the power will determine whether Semenyo wins the battle or not. And Livramento needs to be really strong really strong to keep hold of him if he plays in that position, which they suggest he will do, because we assume that Brooks will play that way. Brooks is a good player. Lewis Hall's going to have to be particularly on the ball, particularly if the ball has been played from this area across goal. Lewis Hall's going to have to be in lock in the right position, because David Brooks does tend to make good runs in these little pockets here to get on the end of stuff. But look, I have to say, I do trust our fullbacks. I think our fullbacks have been very, very good. If Jebuson's up there, I'm not necessarily worried. If Owatara is up front, he's got a little bit more about him, a little bit more height, a little bit more strength, a little bit more power. I think the boys will have to be a little bit more on their toes. But I think from a forward point of view, I do think I trust these centre-backs to manage the situation. But I think it's from their wings is where we're going to maybe get a couple of answers, a couple of questions to answer off the back of that. But look, as you said, Chris, we have to worry about us. If we go and do what we need to do, I genuinely think we'll win the game and we'll win it comfortably. So that's where I'm at, fella. But where are we at with questions? Because I know you mentioned there's a few questions been asked in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few comments as well, so I'll read them through first. So Colin Nichols says, is there any truth in the rumour you've recruited Kevin Carney as a special guest? Absolutely not. But Pete, I don't know if you saw Kevin Carney's comments saying the only reason we are where we are is because it's purely and solely because of Alexander Isak. So obviously Kevin hasn't been watching a lot of Newcastle games very intently recently. Particularly as most pundits, and I think Paul Scholes corrected her and said, actually, I think it's the midfield. Alexander Isak's been a massive contributor to what we've done, absolutely no doubt about it. But there's so many other players who've been absolutely brilliant. It's not just all about Alexander Isak; it's definitely a team effort,
mate. That is for me. And look, this is not on. Is it Karen Carney? They made that comment. Yeah, sorry, it's up there. This is not on Karen Carney. This is on a number of different pundits that clearly don't watch Newcastle United. When you make a comment like that, and she's not the only one. There are lots of other pundits, ex-players that have made similar comments. Danny Murphy, for example, on TalkSport, saying that Bruno hasn't got the legs or isn't athletic enough. The guy covers the most ground of any Premier League midfielder season upon season, and is, I think, if I'm right in thinking, in the lead currently this season for ground covered and miles or kilometers covered in matches over the course of the season. There are so many that make comments like this, and all it boils down to is that they don't watch Newcastle United. They don't watch Newcastle United. They listen to what other people say. They look at a couple of things on social media that are probably not Newcastle related, that may be related to their own club. So they'll probably say Danny Murphy will probably listen to Liverpool perspective. Karen Carney, is she a Man United fan? I'm not sure. But she'll probably listen to, I imagine so. She'll probably listen to other club or Man United or whoever she supports perspective on Newcastle United. She doesn't watch them, and they don't. And this is the problem. They don't watch Newcastle United unless they're playing against their own club. This is the reality. And so this is where it's a flawed opinion on Newcastle United. Whereas actually, as we've just said, content creators, pundits are talking about Newcastle United a lot because they're seeing us up fourth in the table. They're seeing us unbeaten in 9, and they're going, oh, where's this come from? These guys look good. Oh, Isak. I thought he was going Arsenal, but it looks like he could be staying at Newcastle because they're playing really well. And so now they're taking more of an interest in Newcastle United and watching them and going, actually, these are a bloody good team.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, I wish my team were playing like this. Yeah, the one that would have stood out for most pundits, and to be fair, when it first started getting talked about in the height in which it is when we went to Old Trafford and won the way we did.
Yeah,
because everyone watches Sky Sports, and when you got Gary Neville talking about Newcastle United, when you got people in the studio, Jamie Carragher talking about Newcastle, waxing lyrical about Alexander Isak, that makes people stand up and take notice. So at that point, everyone's going, "Oh, yeah. I need to watch Newcastle United," and they're now seeing what we saw 3 or 4 games before that. So it's really, really interesting. So for me, pinch of salt, ain't interested because they don't watch the team. It's as simple as that. If you watch the team, you'll know exactly what you said, Chris. It is more to that. It's the fact that our centre-backs have been absolutely superb. It's the fact that our wing-backs have been the best, our full-backs have been the best full-backs pairing in the Premier League this season. I'm saying as a pairing. They're the best pairing of full-backs in the Premier League. You're looking at the fact that our midfield is the best in the Premier League, in my opinion. We've got the best striker in the world right now on form. There's no one better. And so for that reason, that is why we're playing well. All of those reasons, not just Isaac. So, I agree.
Totally, mate. Totally. Claire G, this is just a little comment. Our FA Cup game is on BBC One on Saturday, the 8th of February at 5:45. No red button for us. So that I think that broke earlier today, didn't it? So I just thought I'd highlight that for anyone who hasn't seen it. So that's our match away at St Andrews against Birmingham, I believe. So yeah, one to keep an eye on. Big shout out to Ivar Svar, who's just become a YouTube member. Top man. Thank you very much, Ivar.
Has been before.
Oh, really?
Has been before, I think so, yeah. Has been a member before, way back when. So, welcome
good
back.
to have you back. Well, good to have you back on board. Absolutely. Right, and we did touch on this very briefly before, Pete, but I'm just going to briefly... I want your opinion on it. So, Andy Ford said, I was chuffed Haaland signed a 10-year contract today. So I think it was 9.5 years, but I'm splitting hairs there. Pleased to hear he'd signed that contract today. One less club who could potentially sign Isak, which is a really good point. And then Lee Jones follows it up by saying, with Haaland signing a 9.5-year contract, should we be doing the same with Isak if we finish in a European spot?
We should be giving him a new contract. Absolutely. Whether he'd want 9.5 years, I'm not too sure. Like the interesting thing about that is, and I think it's been going around on social media, is the 9.5-year contract basically makes it 115 months, which is very interesting considering the charges were 115. So I think there's a little bit of trolling there that Man City and Erling Haaland have done to the rest of the Premier League and English football by giving him that level of contract. So I don't think there's anything in it like I wanted a 9-year contract or I'm staying for life. I think they're giving him that contract just to prove a point, just to kind of like stick it to him a little bit. But that's the noise that's been going around. It's apparently a 115-month contract to kind of like counteract the charges and stuff. And now everyone's now saying, oh, they're not going to get charged, which I didn't think they would do anyway. So it'd be interesting to see what the fallout with that. But for me, Alexander Isak, at the end of the season, that should be our first priority from May to July when they come back from pre-season. Get Isak signed to a new contract. If we get Champions League, as soon as that Champions League, if we get it, if we're lucky enough to get it, as soon as that's confirmed, that'd be the first thing I'd do. That's my priority. Signing down or nailing down your main man for a long-term contract. So we have 3 years left in the summer. I'd be extending that by at least another 3, making it at least a 6-year contract and going, you're here for a long period because we are going in the right direction and this is where we want to be. Because I do genuinely believe, I'm going to say this early, whether we get it or not, if we are lucky enough to be in the Champions League next season, we won't be making the same mistakes that we did when we were in it last time. And I think the club will learn from their mistakes and do it proper. This time. So that's what I'm looking forward to if we get it, of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think as well, Gordon signed a new deal, Bruno signed a new deal. Once we've got Alexander Isak signed up, I'd then be looking at Sven Botman, I'd be looking at Sandro Tonali, I'd be getting this bunch of players and I'd be saying, right, you 5 or 6, obviously Lewis Hall's on a pretty decent deal as well, 5, 6, 7 players and just going, user staying. For the foreseeable, user staying. And I think that's how you build the camaraderie as well. We're building something special here, and we want you to be part of it. You're going to be the nucleus of this team. This is what we want. And I think by getting everyone to commit, I think it's only going to help us going forward. Right, next one. Nobby Clark says, everyone's preference online seems to be in Burmo. I actually prefer someone like Cherky. Me too, Nobby. We don't have that fun party football person. I think we could do with one. Now, when this came up, Pete, you know, I only had one thought. Cherky.
It would be the fun house if he came to the club, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
But the one thing we've got to expect, if we're going to bring a Maverick in, which he is, just like we had at ASM, you got to expect that he's not necessarily going to track back. He's not going to do that sort of work, that dogged work in and behind that sometimes Harvey Barnes gets stick for because he's not that way inclined. You're going to have to expect that. But what you will get going forward is goals, you'll get assists, you'll get creativity. So we have to understand that not every player that comes to the club is going to be a workhorse. So if a player like that comes in, he's coming in to make a difference at the top end of the pitch. And look, you've seen the clips, you've seen the videos, you've watched him live, you know that he can produce that moment. But he's one, I think, of a few that I think would be an excellent addition if we were to lose Miggy, and I think we do need to sign. But again, another conversation for another day about that transfer show, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nobby. I'm pleased you said that, and when you put "fun" in inverted commas, it was like it's got to be done. It's got to be done. So no, thank you for that, Nobby. Big shout out to Michael McIntyre for the super sticker. Thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate the support. It's very nice here. Next time, mate, throw a comment in. But thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I've got two very quick ones I'm going to ask you. So the first one is on Claire G. And Claire says, let's hope this meeting tonight is about the window. Do you believe that this meeting, this summit that has been called, Pete, do you think everyone's kind of alluding to the fact it's about, you know, the academy and about bringing in, you know, the real youngsters? Is that like a bit of a smokescreen? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some kind of conversation about when Miggy Almiron goes, maybe we need a new right winger. What do you think?
If they've not had that conversation now, with the fact that we've had rumours of that bid is going to be accepted, then I'd be really worried at this point. The fact that they've either accepted it and held it off for a second to allow them to play tomorrow, or they're going to accept it, that would have, I would like to think, had a conversation to say, right, there's a bid come in, we're going to accept it. What are we going to do next in terms of us? Are we going to sign? Are we not? What's the conversation? And I would have imagined that conversation would have happened. If there is this official summit, it's rumored to be more than one thing. I think it's meant to be scouts giving their kind of like reports back from what they found, and maybe other discussions which could well be, okay, what are we going to do next? I would like to think that if those conversations have happened today, that would be more like, okay, Miggy's going, where are we going next? And we're already identifying a player or two or three that we're going to go and target, which for me would fill me with a lot of excitement, because if it is a player of potential, like Mark Douglas put out a piece today and talked about a potential signing and had Ryan Cherky, as we've just mentioned, in that list of 4, that would excite me, because if it's a player of potential, then he is obviously a player of potential. You can get him at a decent price. If you're looking at a player a little bit more outlandish than that, a little bit more expensive, but a little bit more productive, then we can't not be excited about that, because you're bringing in a player that could potentially come straight in ahead of Jacob Murphy and be that main guy. But ultimately what you're doing is you're bringing in someone, with all due respect, that's better than Miguel Almiron. So you're then having 2 good options available to you on that right-hand side, which is what we've been craving for a long time. So for me, that summit could mean a number of different things. But for me, anything related to transfers and talking about transfers means that Newcastle United are potentially ready to be active. The one thing I would expect is there not to be this fanfare and this constant reporting like we had of Mark Gay. I do think this month, if we go and get a player, I think it'll be a case we'll find out when it's very, very close to being done, which I'm not against at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. For me, it's one of 2 things. I think it's either going to be a little huddle in a room, where they go, right, these are our targets, go and find out what the status is of these targets, and then we'll reassess. Or it's going to be a huddle in a room where they've already gone out, they've already had, intermediary chats, and they've gone, right, here's the 8 that we're interested in. This one's a no-go. This one's a no-go. This one, we think we could maybe do something. This one, we might have to pay a little bit more than what we wanted. What should we do? Do we press the button? Do we not? I think it's one of those two scenarios. I don't think they're going to go in cold and go, right, what should we do? I think it will already be a plan, and it's a case of how we approach it. Or here's the update. This is what we're going to do. That's how I think it will go. And as I say, I'm excited about the next 16 days, and I do hope that there's going to be some news. But I think we'll bring someone in of some capacity, even if it's a youngster, Pete, as you say. Get them ready in the next 5 months pre-season, and they're going to be up and firing for next season. And but worst case scenario, if something was to happen to Jacob Murphy, they could come in and play some football as well. So it's just having an extra body in the room, and that's what I hope that we're going to do. The last question goes to Andy Ford. Andy Ford says, Pete, better question about Murphy. If he continues like this, would any right winger we sign be his backup and not a starter?
Well, when you're in the form that you're in, as Jacob Murphy's in right now, you kind of get the feeling that they would be a backup. But the reality is look, Jacob Murphy's in a brilliant purple patch, and the longer that continues, the better for Newcastle United. That is absolutely for sure. But what you can say is actually, we need to look beyond Jacob Murphy, and we need to look for the next player to be the guy. Jacob Murphy's 30 years old, or soon to be 30. And I think with that, you are asking a question of, okay, what comes next? Now, Miguel Almiron is also 30. I think he's older than Jacob Murphy. So that wasn't what comes next. We needed to move him on. He's fulfilled his duties at Newcastle United. But for me, I think at this point now, Jacob Murphy would then revert back to being the understudy, a very, very good one that's capable, by the way. And you need that for European games next season. Can Jacob Murphy go away from home if it's in Europa League or Champions League and do a job for Newcastle United? Absolutely.
We saw it at the San Siro. We saw it.
There you go. And so he can be that guy. But of course, what you want to do is look to the future. We looked to the future when Alan Saint-Maximin left the club and we brought Anthony Gordon in. And when we initially brought Anthony Gordon in, I don't think anyone expected to see what we're now seeing from Anthony Gordon, who for me is the best left winger currently on form in the Premier League.
Yes.
No one, I think, had that expectation. What I think we'll want to do is look to create the same. Is look to bring in a guy, and I think January is not a bad window to do it. We did it with Anthony Gordon, and look what's happened now. You bring him in January, you give him 6 months to bed in. There can be that kind of coming off the bench guy and having an impact, but then with a view that potentially next season or by the end of this season, they've taken over Jacob Murphy by good performances, goals, assists, and they become the guy that takes us then forward. That's what transition is. At a football club, and that's how it should be. So, and that's particularly how it is when you're buying young players, by the way, is that they take time to settle and then they produce their best. Tino Livramento, Lewis Hall are classic examples of that. So I think they are somebody that should come in initially to play back up to Murphy because he's playing so well, but ultimately will be pushing him to saying, I want to be playing for Newcastle United. You need to keep playing like this, otherwise I'm going to take your place, which I think most fans, if not all fans, would agree with.
Yeah.
That sound fair?
No, it sounds absolutely fair, and I think it's absolutely right. And you know what? I was just going to finish by reflecting. Don't you think it's mad how in this show, I know we've kind of touched on it in previous shows, but more so this show, we've actually gone out, we've stuck our chest out, and we've got the best striker in the world at the moment. We've got probably, if you look at them as a collective, the best midfield in the Premier League at this moment. We've got the best pair of fullbacks in the Premier League as of this moment. And it's only when you look back and you think, bloody hell, rewind 6-12 months. Like we've never really spoken about Newcastle like that. And the more and more that we have these conversations, Pete, and obviously based on what happens tomorrow, which we will see, as to, you know, whether that belief's there, whether we can go on and get that 10th win in a row, which is a record-breaking win. It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are we starting to see something special? Are we on the cusp of really seeing the true potential that we really thought when this takeover went through? Because, like, you know, if you'd have said to me 2 years ago, oh, you're going to have the best midfield in the Prem, you're going to have the best striker in Europe, you're going to have arguably the best left winger in the Premier League, you're going to have the best, you know, fullbacks in the league as a pairing, I'd have gone, nah, not yet. We're way off that now. But you're looking at your Arsenals, you're looking at your Cities, you're looking at your Chelseas, you're looking at your Man United, your Tottenham, and you're going, I wouldn't really take any of them. And do you know what I thought, just as you were talking about Jacob Murphy then, and it's pie in the sky, and it's not going to happen, but it's just an observation. What would having someone like Mo Salah in that right wing position do for us now? I'm not saying we're getting him. I'm just purely making the point. No. If we had a top right wing, what's this team capable of?
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing. That's what we need to add. That's exactly what we need to add, and that's what would take us to the next level of having a front three that is as dangerous and formidable as that. Like Davey Eddie, I just want to take off for a second. Says Tyler Dibling's got Newcastle United written all over him. I didn't watch the game last night because I was I was at a night with Les Ferdinand, which was amazing, by the way. Really, really good night. But yeah, by all accounts, he was absolutely brilliant for particularly in the first half again. For me, if we're looking at a player with potential, I'd be putting money down for him. If we get rid of Miguel Almiron, I'd be making Southampton ask the question and go, you know what, 25, 30 million, we'll have him now. And I bet you, if Tyler Dibling had the opportunity to come to Newcastle United, and we put money down on the table, he'd be going, let me go. Let me go. They take the money, they reinvest. Jobs are good. Like, that's what I would be doing. A player like that would just make sense for me. And so, yeah.
Oh, last thing I'm going to mention, because it's just come in the chat, and it's a super chat from Nobby Clark, and I loved it. I love this, Nobby. I love the comment as well. On what Chris is saying, the best thing is we didn't buy the best out there. We bought potential and made them. Love that. Love
there
that.
You go.
Love that. Thank you for the super chat as well, Nobby. Thank you.
Yeah, spot on. And that's exactly it. Is that we bought players that have been made into the players that we're now talking about. Every single one of them has been brought in and is now being talked about higher in reputation value than what they were
when we got them. Yeah, totally agree. Lovely way to finish that. Lovely way. And a really, really good comment, that, Nobby. Totally agree, mate.
Spot on. Predictions, mate. Before we say goodbye to everyone on this Friday evening, predictions. What are you going for tomorrow, mate? What's the score?
It's mad. I think we keep another clean sheet. And I'm going to say 2-0. 2-0 Newcastle.
2-0 Newcastle. I'm going to stick with my initial prediction for the Wolves game, and I'm going to go Newcastle to win 3-1. That's my prediction. Either way, as long as we win, I don't care. Let's make it 10, boys. Let's make it 10.
Let's make it 10.
Sure. We are continuing to ride up that table. Could potentially be third by the time the game's finished with a win. Joint points with Forest. Better goal difference. What a great way to start the weekend that would be. But
points in the back pocket, and everybody else is looking, going, oh, Newcastle won again. Won again. All the pressure then goes on them, because the Liverpool dropping points. If we could continue winning, Liverpool dropping points, Chelsea are dropping points, Brighton, all those clubs, they're going to be looking and going, oh, Newcastle won again. We need to win. Got to win today. Got to win. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. And I said that'd be a great way to start the weekend. But an even better way to start the weekend is to watch the big match preview that you've just watched with Loaded Mag and NUFC, me and Chris. People, we're going to head out of here. We're going to enjoy the rest of our evening, as will you. But yeah, we'll be back with a match reaction tomorrow afternoon. Keep an eye out for the time. We will be back as well for more next week, hopefully with 10 in a row. Mate, how do you want to see us out? What video?
I think we see how we started, Pete. The main man.
I'll take that. Let's see out with the main man. People, hit the likes on the way out. Make sure you get those likes up to, let's say, 150. Let's get there. Got nearly 150 in the chat. Take care, people. Come on, Newcastle. Let's make it 10 in a row. Take care. See you soon.
Yes, sir.